I want to start with something that not many want to admit out aloud. Giving up is easy. Not just easy, it's the easiest thing that you will ever do. Easier than starting, easier than failing, easier than asking for help or changing course or admitting you were wrong. Easier than any of the hard things that get talked about on shows like this one. Because quitting doesn't ask anything of you, it just asks you to stop. And stopping when you are tired and it isn't working out and you cannot see the end and nobody seems to notice how much this is costing you, stopping feels less like giving up and more like being reasonable. It feels like wisdom. It feels like knowing your limits. It feels like finally being honest with yourself after a long time of pretending. That is a lie quitting tells you on the way out. That it is the smart move, that it is the mature move, that continuing would be real foolishness. Easy and right are never the same thing. And the fact that something feels like relief, does not make it the correct decision. Galatians 6 verse 9 does not say persist when it makes sense, does not say keep going when you can see the harvest. It says do not become weary in doing good because the proper time is coming, not maybe coming, not coming if conditions improve, coming. The harvest is there. The question is whether you will still be in the field when it arrives. Most men quit one season before the harvest. I want you to hear that again. Most men quit one season before the harvest, not halfway through, not at the beginning when the work is new and the uncertainty is loudest. They quit late. They quit when have already paid the majority of the cost and the return is close. They quit because the last stretch is always the hardest stretch, and nothing about the last stretch tells you it is the last stretch. It just feels like more of the same pain with no end in sight. And so they stop. And the harvest comes, and someone else is standing in the field. Let me tell you what easy actually is. Easy is the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is not a path toward anything. It is a path away from something, away from discomfort, away from the cost, away from the version of you that would exist on the other side of finishing. When you choose easy, you are not choosing a destination, you're choosing an escape. James 1 verses 2 to 4 says something that should stop every man cold. It says, consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, not tolerate it, not endure it while secretly resenting it, pure joy. And the reason it gives is precise. The testing of your faith produces perseverance, and perseverance, when it finishes its work, when you let it complete what it is trying to do in you, produces a man who is mature and complete, not lacking anything. Read that the other way around. If you do not let the testing faith, if you quit before the perseverance completes its work, you get a partial man. A man who has been through some of the process but not enough of it. A man who is still lacking the things that only come through staying when everything in you wanted to leave. The trial is not the enemy of your becoming. The trial is the mechanism of it. You cannot become who God built you to be by taking every exit ramp the moment the road gets hard. The road being hard is the road doing its job. I think about Luke chapter 9, verse 62 a lot. No one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God. That is a hard verse. It's not a verse about trying hard and failing short. It's a verse about direction. A man with his hand on the plow who keeps looking back at what he left is not plowing. He is standing still in the middle of the field, pretending to work while his attention is somewhere else entirely. Quitting is not always a dramatic moment. It is not always a decision made consciously and announced. Sometimes quitting is just looking back so often and so long that you never actually move forward. You stay, you go through the motions, but the work stops because your heart already left. Easy does that to a man. Doesn't always take him out of one move. It pulls his attention backward a little at a time until he is present in name only. And the cost of that, the cost of a man who has quit in his heart while his body is still in the field, is that he builds nothing. He becomes nothing. He produces the harvest of a man who stopped, dressed up in the appearance of a man who stayed. Romans 5 verses 3 and 4 gives us the clearest picture of what perseverance actually produces. Suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance produces character. Character produces hope. That is a chain, and every link in that chain requires the previous one. You do not get character without perseverance. You do not get perseverance without staying in the suffering long enough for it to finish its work. And you do not get the hope, the deep, settled, unshakable confidence in who you are and where you're going without the character that was forged in the staying. Hope in Romans 5 is not optimism. It is not a feeling. It is the result of a process. It is what a man has when he has been through enough hard things and stayed through enough of them to know, not believe, not hope in the fragile sense, know that he is the man, he is the kind of man that does not quit. The knowledge changes everything about how he moves. It changes what he is willing to attempt. It changes how he faces the next hard thing. It changes who he is. You cannot buy that. You cannot think your way to that. You cannot get it from a book or a podcast or even a conversation. It is only built one way, by staying when leaving was an option, by choosing hard when easy was right there. Every time you stay, you become more of the man you are supposed to be. Every time you quit, you become less. Not in the dramatic sense, not in the way that anyone else necessarily sees, but in the quiet, accumulated, compounding way that eventually produces either a man who knows what he is made of or a man who spent his life avoiding the moments that would have told him. The man who stays through the hard things comes out the other side knowing something about himself that the man who quit will never know. That knowledge is not arrogance, it is identity. It is the answer to every question. Uh, it is the answer to the every. It is the answer to the question every man is actually asking underneath every other question. Am I the kind of man who finishes? Hebrews 12 verse 1 says, "Run with perseverance the race marked for us." The race marked out for us, not the race we would have designed, not the race that plays to our strengths and avoids our weaknesses. The race marked out for us, the one that was built specifically for who we are supposed to become, which means it includes every hill and every long flat stretch and every moment where you cannot see the finish line and your legs are giving out. And the only reason to keep going is the conviction that finishing matters. The race was designed to require everything you have. That is not a flaw in the design. That is the design. I want to talk about what quitting actually costs. Not in the long run, right now. Every man is carrying something unfinished. A relationship he walked away from before the hard conversation, a project he started and shelved, commitment he made to himself that he quietly stopped keeping, a version of himself he was building and then one day just stopped building. Those unfinished things do not disappear. They do not get filed away. They stay with you. They stay in the way you talk about yourself, the qualifications you had, the things you do not say out loud, and the hesitation that shows up when someone asks you what you are working on. The weight of the unfinished is heavier than the weight of the hard thing you would have had to carry to finish it. I know men who I know men who quit things years ago and they are still explaining it to themselves, still adjusting to the story so that the decision sounds reasonable, still carrying the low grade cost of having left before it was done. The exit that was supposed to bring relief became a room they still live in. This is what easy does over time. The relief is real, but it is short. The cost is quiet, but it compounds. Staying is hard once, quitting is hard forever because you carry the version of you that didn't finish, and that version follows you into every next thing you try to do. Second Timothy 4 verse 7. Paul at the end of his life, not at a moment of triumph, not looking back from a place of comfort and ease, writing from prison, facing execution. And what he says is, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. He does not say it was easy. He does not say it was worth it in the way we mean when we calculate costs and benefits. He says he finished. He says he kept the faith. And in those words, you can hear everything that went into them. Every moment that quitting was available, every season where the suffering was real, every choice to stay and leaving was possible. That is what a finished life sounds like. Not perfect, not painless, finished. That is what available to you. Not the guarantee that it will be easy or it will go the way that you planned. The guarantee that if you stay, if you do not become weary in doing good, the harvest comes. So let me ask you directly, what are you thinking about quitting right now? Not hypothetically, specifically. What's the thing that has been getting harder and giving less back and testing your patience and your faith and your willingness to keep going? What is the thing that Easy has been whispering to you about? The thing where the exit ramp is visible and you have been glancing at it at a longer, uh, you have been glancing at it longer each time you pass it. Name it. Don't be vague about it. The vague version of it is how Easy keeps you from looking at it directly. And then I want you to ask yourself one question. Not whether you should stay or go, not whether it is working or not working, not whether it is worth it in the way the math usually works. Ask yourself this: is the reason I want to quit because this is wrong or because this is hard? Those are not the same thing. A man who cannot tell the difference between the two will quit the right things for the wrong reasons and stay in the wrong things because the exit isn't obvious enough. Hard is not a signal to stop. Hard is a signal that you are in a place where something real is being built in the work and in you. Wrong is different. Wrong has a different feeling. Wrong is the closed door, the clear conviction, the unmistakable sense that this is not the direction. If you are in something wrong, leaving is not quitting, it is obedience. But most men are not leaving wrong things. They are leaving hard things and calling them wrong because That makes the exit feel cleaner. Easy and right are never the same thing. Stay in the field. Harvest is coming. I know what I just asked you to sit with. Some of you came into this episode always halfway through the door on something. And I'm not asking you to pretend that door isn't there. I'm asking you to ask yourself honestly whether what's on the other side of it is freedom or just relief. Because relief runs out, and when it does, you are still the same man, just without the thing you left behind. The man who finishes is not the man who never wanted to quit. He is the man who wanted to quit and stay in it. Be that man. This is Built Not Felt by the Rice Code. I'll see you all in the next episode.